Good morning and welcome to Upstream Intelligence's Connected Digital Operations webinar, where leading industry experts from Dell EMC, Marathon Oil and Pixel Velocity will be shedding light on how organizations are implementing connected digital operations, sharing case studies and demonstrating their latest technologies. My name is Charlotte Howlett and I'll be acting as the chairperson for this webinar. This webinar is being run by Upstream Intelligence in conjunction with the 4th annual Data-Driven Drilling and Production Conference taking place at the Hilton Post Oak in Houston, Texas on the 30th and 31st of May. This is the world's largest data-driven oil and gas conference where over 500 key decision makers and industry leaders gather to discuss how best to minimize downtime, enhance safety, and deliver digital transformation. This webinar is one of several pieces of work we're doing to promote the industry and some of the key issues within it. There are over 500 of you signed up today, so thanks very much for the great response and thank you in advance to our panelists for their time. Just a brief bit of housekeeping before we begin. This webinar will last for roughly an hour and it is being recorded, so we'll send you the full audio recordings and presentations within the next week. You do have the facility to ask questions through me as the chairperson, and there will also be a live poll as we move through. The purpose of today's session is to take a closer look at delivering a real-time event monitoring solution for improved operations, how IoT enables virtual site visits to drive oil field operation efficiencies, and digital work transformation success stories. Joining me today to address some of the key issues are Chris Lench, Solutions Architect at Connected Digital Operations Dell EMC Energy Program, Lee Pena, Engineering Tech Supervisor at Marathon Oil, and Jesse Fenner, Director at Pixel Velocity. Dell EMC Intel will be the headline sponsor of the Data-Driven Drilling and Production Conference in Houston this May, so if you'd like to meet them in person, then please do so. The link to register is on the title slides. We'll be having a question and answer session at the end, so please do submit questions during the webinar. Simply enter your question in the chat function on the webinar panel, and we'll try to get to it at the end. We'll be having presentations from each of the panelists. Without further ado, let's begin. Chris, over to you.
Howdy, everybody. Let me share my screen here. Monitor number 2. So you should be seeing Dell Technologies Connected Digital Operations. First, thanks for everyone for joining us. And I also want to thank Intel for being a co-sponsor of this event with us and also the Data-Driven Production. We do a lot of business with Intel. In fact, Dell just recently became the first $11 billion company for Intel, so we really like working a lot with each other. So let's jump into this. So as far as agenda, I'm going to quickly go over Dell EMC IoT strategy for connected digital operations. I have a couple slides on connected digital operations discussion on things you need to think about on your journey. And then I've got some use cases, and I'm asking you kind of the questions. You know, when you look at these use cases as they relate to the new digital transformation models, which ones are right for you and which ones you want to work on? Okay, so let's jump into this. So when we look at distributed our Dell IoT strategy, this is a new version of what I used to have. It's all around distributed architecture flexibility. So we've got a model where we believe you can do anything from the edge of the core to cloud. You know, own the edge, win the core, and leverage the cloud as best meets your needs for delivering connected digital operations and IoT enablement. We've got the security, the analytics, and the manageability to make this all happen. But also around this technology is how can we make it even smarter? And so we look at the edge and the core and the cloud. There's a little bit of buzzwords here, but you know, at the edge, people are trying to do things around edge analytics. And in order to do that, you've got to have some level of machine learning in the core or cloud and deep learning. And when we say deep learning, the idea is if you've got a pump, it's hard to get a good operations model or scoring models just from one pump. You've got to be able to get 1,000 pumps in the same relative operations and bring them into the cloud and core environment to do deep analytics to get it to where you want to be. And it's all about making it smarter, pushing insights from the edge and pulling insights from the cloud through the right level of infrastructure, the right level of data capabilities, right? So that's the IoT strategy and overall approach that Dell is pushing in the market today, especially around oil and gas and manufacturing and other operation-specific areas. So when we look at why we're doing it, the bottom line is, the world is generating and capturing all sorts of data, and people want to move to, first a real-time action on data. How can I even just move to, a real-time operation so I know what's going on now? How do I understand how it relates to my other areas of the business, and how can I act on it? But then secondly, or even more importantly, how do I get to a more prescriptive model? How can I convert data into information and actionable insights from the predictive prescriptive model in real time? So that's where we're going in the world, and that's specifically how Dell is approaching it. So after we just talked a little bit about the architecture, I'm going to go on a little bit of discussion around connected digital operations. So when we look at connected digital operations, it's all about, whether it's as a service or something else, is how can we make end-to-end solutions simple? How can we make them easier from the edge core to cloud in the field, right? So if you're in the Permian Basin or Eagle Ford or Bakken or Gulf of Mexico or North Sea, how do you make things work together? So if you look at from the field operations, you need to look at things like, what is my current automation? What is my current data velocity? Am I getting enough data? Is my polling in place to provide me the right level of data to get to that next level of capabilities as it relates to learnings, as it relates to analytics? Is my connectivity in place? Do I have the right level of connectivity? How do I send data from place to place at the right level of bandwidth? And then as you look at your current, you need to start thinking about your future. So what should my data velocity be? How and where am I going to aggregate my data? What are my key workflows that I want to work on? And what level of transformation am I ready to move in terms of my company? Do I have to do information technology? How am I going to leverage my digital workforce and security transformation? And the last thing as it relates to the edge is, what level of edge processing do I want to do? If I just want to do simple, maybe intelligent alerting, do I want to do edge analytics driven? Do I want the computer actually to make decisions right then on the whole? These are things you need to look at the edge. Now, when you come into the central facility or field office, it's a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, you got to understand, what is my visibility? What do I know what's going on in my business? How do I currently collaborate? And again, what is my current connectivity and my current automation as it relates to getting the right data at the right time to be able to make the decisions? And then we look at a little bit more at the workforce. So how am I collaborating? What's my collaboration strategy? What type of operation centers do I have in place? What are the key challenges I need to overcome? And again, what are the key workflows? And when we look at kind of central facilities or field office, we get a little bit more into this whole idea of workforce transformation, which is one of the key things we're going to be talking about today with Pixel Velocity and what they're doing over at Marathon. And again, the digital transformation about capturing data and using it more effectively. And then finally, we get to the corporation and business unit headquarters. Again, a lot of it comes around visibility and automation, and collaboration and connectivity, so that you can work with your people anywhere, anytime in the world. But in the core, we start looking at not only workforce and digital, but what level of infrastructure transformation, what level of security transformation do I need in order to create this next level of connected digital operations? And obviously the edge of core processing, how we can able to make more sense. So these are kind of things, when you're thinking about connected digital operations, you need to think about and you need to consider. And even though there's a lot of kind of hard questions, it's really not that hard, right? We've been doing this a long time, and you've been doing this a long time to make this happen. I want to go just really quickly into a deeper perspective on this. So when you look at the edge, you've got your sensors and communication, you've got your gateways, your other information. What level of capability do I need to properly catch my sensors and communication? When you look at your data, what type of environment do I need? Do I need an aggregator at the edge? Do I need an IoT platform? Do you need a data lake? How are you going to leverage all your data? So you got your sensors, you got your data and your communication. And the next thing is, in this new world of data consumption, there seems to be this new group of data science and data consumers. What level of capability do they have to position the data to be used more effectively in the context of the end users, the people that are driving the workflows, the people that are delivering the success? And so when you look at that from a kind of connected digital operation, it's a little detailed, but at the end of the day, it's really not that hard, folks. How do you then turn around and make sure you got the right level of telecommunication connectivity? How do you leverage that communication? How do you have the right level of automation sensors and devices? And of course, how do you have the right level of Dell infrastructure or compute, analytics, visualization, and security? So this is kind of the overall approach, the strategies, and what we're doing. And now, but as people that know me, you know this next slide's coming. It's all about the business, right? So even though we talk about technology, it's not about technology. It's about the business. Technology is here to make things better, faster, to make things safer. And that's how we're leveraging it. So when we align whatever we want to do in the context of business, whether it's efficiencies, whether it's production, whether it's ultimate recovery, or just making better decisions faster with reduced risk, we need to make sure that we align to the business. Because if you align it to your business, you align it to your value, then your business people will get on board and you'll be able to go to this next level of capabilities, right? And that's what it's all about. So again, talk about our strategy, our architecture, a little bit about some discussion points and what you need to think about and how you can maybe approach it. And now we're going to look about use cases. So, as people know me, I'm more of a utilitarian kind of guy, and the idea is, what can you do now? What examples or use cases that we should talk to you about that can provide more value? So, one of the things do you need to enable pervasive data capture from the edge of the core? Is that one of the key things you want to do? Are you not capturing the right velocity, the right aggregation, the right level of information? Do you need to maybe have push the PI systems or something like it out to the edge within a gateway because your polling systems aren't good enough to do that next level of capabilities? That's something that can be done now. That's something that we can certainly help you with. The other thing is, do you want to deliver condition-based maintenance at the edge? Working maybe with a company like Arundo, where they've transformed this company called Songs, where now they have gateways capturing all the key information off their pumps, doing real-time analytics, pushing it back to the core to do that deep learning models and pushing the models back to the edge to make it happen, right? And this is a very good example of things that are people doing. A third one is, are you an SAP company? I mean, how are you driving connectivity and analytics with SAP, Leonardo? Right, so we're doing a lot of things with Leonardo. We're actually doing real-time prescriptive models and predictive models on pumps, being able to bring up an AR, VR instance to do triage and drastically streamline that whole triage model, determine what the problem is, and then finally put it into work orders and project management and dispatching logistics and supply chain model to streamline that whole process. It's going very well, and we'll be rolling that out, a demo, April 16th in Lisbon at the Global SAP Conference on oil and gas. And then the things we're doing with Emerson. So Emerson, how do you transform your connected digital operations remote asset monitoring from reactive to predictive? And then from monitoring to advising. So Emerson has this really great product called Plant Web Optics that allows you to do monitoring, but also allows you to do advisory type things across the whole system, so you can optimize not only a specific piece of equipment, but the entire model as it relates to your refinery, as it relates to your chemical plants, or as it relates to your things that are in the field in oil and gas. Okay, so those are just a couple of them that we talked about. And the last one is what we're going to talk about today, which is workforce transformation. How can you use the next level of data? How can you use something like audio, video, but use audio and video in the context of real-time data, real-time analytics, intelligent learning to drive you and help you transform your workforce, so your workforce can spend less time doing maybe not as valuable activities and focus on what is valuable to your team, and not only deliver these things in a focused model, but deliver them in a safer model. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I thank you for your time. My name is Chris Lynch. I work for Dell Technologies. And next up will be Lee Pena, a good friend of mine from Marathon Oil. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. We're just going to leave screen now. Lee, click view the screen. Fantastic. And
right.
Lee, over to you.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm seeing. My name is Lee Pena with Marathon Oil. I'm originally started at the Eagle Ford asset as a production engineering technician supervisor. I've since moved to the data analytics group. I'm a data scientist as part of our advanced analytics group here in the Houston Tower. What I want to talk to you guys today is about a project we did several years ago involving our GPS data. And as mundane as it sounds, the global positioning system, we researched this data and we pulled out some extreme value from it. And what I want to do is just kind of walk you through the steps of why we did it, how we did it, and what kind of tangible benefits we got from it. So this project is based on our Eagle Ford asset. We had approximately 1,500 wells at the time. That being said, we covered huge amounts of miles on a daily basis, and using our GPS systems, we had to figure out a way, like we had all this data that was sitting there and nobody was looking at it. So what I just proposed to my ops manager at the time is said, let me set up a team and I just really want to look at this data, and maybe nothing will come of it, but at least we have looked at it. And the price of oil at the time was, nearing $100. And to get me out of his hair, he agreed to it, and I was allowed to set up this team to kind of look into it. The integration of this system, so the data set that we're going to be using is the LiveView GPS system. And I know a lot of you guys have that system or use that system, but you can use any one of the GPS third-party vendors, and you can extract that data and bring that in-house so you can analyze that. The integration is going to be the several different platforms that we use to get to our conclusion. Collaboration was working with the other teams in our asset, being able to disseminate this in a usable format to the end users. And the analysis, how do we get this data? What decisions do we make, and who makes them once we have the results of the analysis? So to set this up, and like I was talking about, we have approximately 1,500 active wells currently, 42 facilities, 339 current vehicles, 172 total operators. And our final number, our final drill out is going to be close to 3,000 wells. So as you can see, the huge operation and the expense that is going to be incurred with doubling our well count. Do we double our operator size? Do we double our buildings, our training vehicles, computers, everything that entails with building that operation? Is that all going to double? And we couldn't hire one extra person now. What makes us think that we're going to double that for our 3,000 wells? So being able to look at this data kind of helped us prepare for that. So one of the things we did is when we started this project, I brought in the production supervisors, and I brought 3 of them in a room, and I would ask them, we had this motto, visit every well every day. And so I asked them, what is our actual number? How well are we doing on visiting each well every day? And you talk to the first guy in the room, he would say 95%. The second guy would say 100%, and then the third guy would say 105%. So, maybe he goes twice in one day, competing objectives. And when we mined the data and actually looked at what the hard numbers were, that number was actually closer to 62%. And that was giving them the benefit of the doubt, where we gave them credit for a drilling truck or any vehicle that crossed into that well pad, we gave them credit for. And really, it's just the production operators that are supposed to be doing these site visits. If we were to filter that out, the real number would be closer to 50%. So we're really doing 50% visitations on a daily basis. And we couldn't affect change if we were not going to deal in reality. So thinking everything's okay is just much different than having the data that shows this is what's actually occurring. So how did we get there? We took the LiveView GPS data, we pulled those, extracted those points, and we're talking about 10-second points for every single vehicle. You're talking about millions of data points every single day. We pushed that into ArcGIS. ArcGIS did the heavy lifting. We extracted that data and put it into a visual analytics program, Spotfire, and some other visual analytics programs. And then we pushed that out to a field because we had to have something that was quick and that conveyed the information without any loading time. And no one's going to look at a map to kind of figure out where everything's at. They wanted something very quick and concise. So that was the workflow that we used to get there. One of the tools that were inside the ArcGIS is ArcGIS has all these tools and we just weren't using them. One of the tools is the route optimizer. And so you could actually put in all your wells and it would give you the exact minimum distance to get to every single well. And when we start up in the morning, we go to all these wells, any which direction you want to go, doesn't matter who's going where. And so you could see there was a big inefficiency that we had to overcome. And the route optimizer kind of showed us, here's the minimum amount of miles that you would have to drive on any specific day in order to get to all these wells. So So utilizing those tools that we already had within our company. Here is ArcGIS. So once we understood, we took that data, and what you see here is actually our well pads. All these rectangles are actual well pads for every single well. One of the great things about this project was our land department was already making these layers for the Railroad Commission. So we were able to just take the land layers that they had created that had all these well pads to the exact size and dimension, and we could overlay those and then create geofences. So each one of these rectangles is actually now a geofence. Then we did a spatial join. We extracted all those 10-second points and we overlaid them on top of this layer and did a spatial join. And anytime one of those dots intersected the polygons of the rectangle, we simply made a calculation that said, turn on, yes, green, whatever your positive affirmation is. So what you see there, anything in green has been visited for the day. And what you see in red has not had a point that intersected it during that 24-hour period. You also see some shades of blue, which is a cooling effect. So we just put some code in there that said, how far apart from the last visit in a 24-hour period. And so you start to see this cooling effect, so you can kind of manage your data set that way. And so this is how we got to that 62% number. And this is great, but you're not going to hand this off to your production supervisor. You're not going to hand him a map. He's not going to do anything with it. And so that's why we had to extract it from here and put it into a visual analytics program. So what we're able to do then is to aggregate all those numbers up. And as you can see, we rolled those up into a per route. And instead of giving them a per day, we gave them a monthly average. We also did do a daily average, but each route now gets summed up and you get a percentage of what was visited. So Eagle Ford Kennedy Route 4 had a 41% visitation for the entire month of February. And if you look through all those bars, none of those bars say 120%, or 105%. We knew that wasn't out there, but this kind of showed, once we showed them this data, this kind of opened their eyes onto what's feasible, what's manageable, what's timely, and what the reality of the situation is. So this kind of just helped us say, okay, some of these routes are really inefficient. Let's take a look at that. Why is that? Do we have too few operators in this route? Is this route too big? What does the route optimizer say? The distance is so huge. Do we need to break this up into more routes? So those are some of the questions that came from just looking at our visitations. Every well, every day, we're supposed to visit it. That just wasn't the reality of the situation. On the bottom, you'll actually see it's broken out by the areas. So we have 3 areas in our Eagle Ford, Gonzales, Kennedy, and Pleasanton. And so you get a roll-up of what each area is doing because they have 3 different production supervisors in each area. So then each supervisor could get a tailor-made understanding of what a specific area is doing. And so you can see the trends over time. One of the other things we did was we wanted to build some confidence in our data set and what we were seeing. So what we did is we took every single vehicle that Marathon had, and we stacked the miles that each of them drove every day. And so every day we stacked every vehicle on top of each other, and that showed us the total amount of miles we were driving every day. And using that route optimizer, we discovered that the minimum amount of miles that we needed to drive on a daily basis was 2,400 miles at that particular point in time. And what we were seeing is that there's some days that we didn't even come close to 2,400 miles. And if you guys work in the oil field like I do, every day is supposed to look like the same. We work 7 days a week, 24/7. One day is supposed to look like the next. And when we looked at this chart, I had them go back and re-pull the data because I just wasn't confident in what we were seeing, but the trends just kept coming up. A very clear pattern emerged from this data set. And I'm sure you guys can see that too, but you could count, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's a drop off 6, 7, then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a drop off 6, 7, and it just kind of repeated over and over again. And I had never gone back and looked at it, but I'm just highly confident that those are the weekends. And then one of those days, 2/14/2015, someone came back to me and told me that was Valentine's Day back then. So regardless, the numbers were kind of confirming all the data that we currently had. One other thing we were able to extract from this was we were able to split out where the vehicle hits the office, and then when they move from the office to the well sites, but also to their home. So we spend more miles driving from the person's home to the office than we do from the office to the well sites across the board. And it's not even close. We spend much more miles from the home to office visit. The other thing we were able to extract from that data was 20% of those 100 and some odd vehicles go from the house to the office, park for 8 hours, and then drive back to their place of residence. And so we could quickly start making determinations on who should really, who needs a vehicle. And if we could shave 20% off our operating costs right off the bat, just from this graph alone, that was extremely tangible to us. And then we could, obviously confirm all this data. So at the end of the day, we created an automated report that goes out to the field on a daily basis through Spotfire, through some of its automation services. And what we were able to do, the very first day we were running around, 60-62% on a daily basis. The very first day that we sent this report to the field, and we sent it to everybody, that number jumped from 62% to 85% overnight. As soon as the report came out, the next very day we ran it, 85%. And we had not been below 80% since this report has come out. The other thing that we also realized is that there was no one day that we ever got to 100%, ever. And then we started to have those conversations. Well, if we're never going to get to 100%, let's talk about this every day. What does that actually, mean? We're not doing it now, and we're running at a certain efficiency. And so then we decided, well, let's split out some of this other data, and we split out. Since we had these 10-second points on pad, we were able to sum those up. And on average, for every well site visit, the visit lasted 2.5 minutes. What is so mission critical that we spend all this time and money for 2.5 minutes? And if it's so critical, where is that data? Because I'd love to analyze it. But then we go dark. We go dark for another 24 hours until the operator shows up again, and then we get another 2.5 minutes. So can I put a camera and a microphone on location, get 99% more surveillance, and then go to the well site from every day, every 2 days, every 3 days, every 5 days, every 7 days? And that's actually currently where we're at. We've moved from an every well every day to every well every 7 days. And now that we were able to do that consistently, we're moving to the model of every well every 14 days. And so we're trying to extend that time. So think about that. If you can use your workforce that you were using to go to every well every day, and now you've done some leveraging factor of every 14 days, that's how you get to 3,000 wells with the exact same operator total that you currently have. That's how you're going to get to 3,000 wells in this price environment. So when we came to those conclusions, all just from looking at our GPS data, we talked about making those decisions. We were then allowed from this project to go into the next phase, which was, let's get 3 vendors in here and see if they can actually do that. We talk about our field, how wide it is, how far it is. And we had essentially what we call a bake-off, where we had 3 vendors come in. They had a month each. We gave them some really coarse guidelines on what they had to use existing equipment. And they were allowed to come up with their own solutions. And at the end of the month, we evaluated them on their solutions, camera, microphone, integration within our current framework. And at the end of the month trial, we chose a vendor, and we've moved on with that vendor. And that vendor that we chose was Pixel Velocity, and I'm sure you guys are able to do the same type of data analytics and come up with your own conclusions. but the competition wasn't even close. It was first and then distant, second and third. It wasn't even close. So from that, we've moved into this project, and I think Jesse's going to talk about how he integrated that system with Marathon and how we're integrating using that in our business solutions. So, Jesse?
Thank you, Lee.
Thanks very much, Lee, for that presentation. Really, really interesting. And also, I just want to say one thing to the audience as well. We've got quite a lot of active listeners, and so if everyone can really make sure they're submitting questions, that would be fantastic. We're going to have a 10-minute session for questions and answers at the end. So any questions that you guys have, please do ask. So without further ado, we're going to move on to presentation from Jesse Fenner. Jesse, just waiting to view your screen at the moment. But yeah, as soon as that's up and ready, if you could take it away, that would be great.
Great. Okay, my screen is up. Are you guys seeing my introduction slide?
Yes, that is perfect. All set to go.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Chris and Lee, for really setting the table. It's a perfect segue for me to follow Lee Pena, because it's folks that are doing this deep analysis of their data that creates an opportunity for a company like mine to really bring something to the table that helps to address the gaps in those data. So I'm Jesse Fenner. I am the sales manager for the Northern United States at Pixel Velocity, and this is Event Velocity, our digital operations software. So Event Velocity is an oil field operations platform. There's a lot of data, a lot of valuable data being generated in the field regarding critical operations. And so the mission of Event Velocity is to provide a pathway and an interface to ensure that all of that valuable data is available to the right person at the right time, whether that is a field operator out in their truck or vehicle accessing live data from another facility that may be across their patch, or it's an operator in the remote operations center that needs to see and hear and understand what's going on at their remote facilities at any given time. So how do we do this? Well, we integrate multiple data streams into a unified HMI, and that allows us to transition some of the traditional physical operating processes in the field into a virtual or a digital process that can be done from the remote operations center. So we use things like cameras, microphones, integrations to SCADA systems. All of that creates a collection of data that then we can present to an operator in real time so that they can make quick assessments and understand how they need to move about their field. And this leads to an ease of workforce optimization. By bringing these systems together into one interface, Event Velocity can help identify drops in production. They can help identify issues, allow an operator to evaluate those visually through audio by looking at the aggregated systems coming together. And then we can also use our ability to immediately dispatch and communicate to your operator so that the closest qualified and equipped on-call operator can get to a site to address an issue as it's occurring. This has implications with not just achieving a quick resolution, which we all know helps prevent a small issue from becoming a big issue, but it's also got implications with preventative maintenance. So if you can actually recognize an issue before it becomes a catastrophic failure, you've just saved your end user, or the end user himself him or herself has saved a company a ton. That's what we're trying to get to. And by using an open integration platform such as Event Velocity, we can integrate disparate data speeds. And so our platform becomes this real-time data aggregation tool that allows you to tag information between systems and really a true collaboration tool for different critical data systems in the oil field. And I think the best way to explain it further is to show you a video of the system in action. So Event Velocity is a map-based user interface, and sites are organized in a native way using the concept of routes, regions, routes, and site names. So I'm going to play this video and kind of narrate it through. But what you're going to have here, and this video is going to highlight several of our capabilities coming together in one instance. So through the map-based user interface, the operator is looking at the overhead view of a single well site. An alert's going to come in from the SCADA system and be presented inside event velocity in context, and that's going to trigger the operator response. So SCADA alert arrives, and a single click opens the archive showing what happened and the value of the tag at that time. A second click will pull up the live video. Seeing the archive, having the ability to access the archive and the live shows you how something happened and then what's happening at that moment. The operator wants to view a workflow so that they can assess what happened. The workflow is actually going to provide some instruction that the operator can use to execute against a particular incident. In event velocity, these workflows are customized per site and per incident type. As we set out to bring this product to market, we realized that no two oil and gas companies run exactly the same. And we found that no two sites even have the same issues. So the ability to create a custom workflow is very important because it allows our customers to have a continuity of operations. And if you talk about going from a physical inspection where you've got the same individual inspecting a site week after week, year after year, moving that to, offsetting some of that to a virtual capability for all the reasons that Lee Pena kind of got into earlier, understand that having continuity of operations is very important because you might have someone different from day to day looking at these things. And really, to have everyone operating with the same protocol all the time, that's critical. That's a goal for most energy companies, in particular oil and gas. So steps are presented for an operator to execute against. In this case, they're going to observe the overall behavior and launch into a virtual tour of the site. So they're going to run a virtual inspection. As you're performing these steps, you're either filling out check boxes that shows you've done it, or you're answering maybe yes or no, or even sometimes multiple choice questions about what you're seeing. That creates data points, and I'll explain how that plays in later. So the virtual tour is going to have preset camera views that represent every critical piece of equipment that an operator might want to look at given a particular incident. The asset hierarchy will attach the proper system name to every virtual view. And the operator doesn't need to worry about which server sensors and call-ups they need to access to see each piece of equipment. That's already pre-programmed in our system. All they need to do is click a button, watch the system run the tour, observe and make notes about what's happening and how to perform the next step, whether that's engaging management or talking to the local field operator to get someone over there. We're using video cameras that provide a great level of fidelity. So if you're going to do this, you need to be able to get in and you need to be able to read a gauge. So from 70 feet, you can see that the pressure is in the right place or not by checking your gauges. We've even got customers that zoom in on sight glasses from a tower that's completely across another well pad. You can see the gauge moving in real time. Audio can be integrated. So we found that bringing in audio as another input, this combination of video audio that really provides a proper inspection. It really recreates what it's like to actually be out there and to not just see, but also hear and understanding what's happening with your equipment. So to you and I, that might sound like white noise, but to the trained operator, they'll understand exactly how their site is supposed to sound. We even have the ability to bring in some video and audio analytics that can sort of watch a facility and recognize when some things are out of order and send alerts that way. So the workflows are gathering structured data, and this is the ability to collect and merge man-made and machine data. And this can actually be exported. So what you're seeing in event velocity here is all about responding in real time. But as you answer these questions, the workflow can be put into a situation report, a PDF file that can be easily sent around the company, but the data can also be pulled off of Event Velocity and integrated into some historical data systems, such as like OCSoft Pi Vision. And I'll play a quick example of how we integrate into Pi. But so in this case, each line, the data input in the workflow has become an event frame inside of Pi. Notes that the operator took will be overlaid and tagged to this data. You can see pressures out of normal range. You need to check historical data. You're combining the human and the machine data, and then you can also search. You can search by workflow name, the name of the well. You can pull up this human data, if you will, that we've created through the answers to the workflows. It gets pulled off and overlaid with the traditional data. So the two can be annotated, and you can kind of compare how your SCADA data and your human intelligence are matching up. And so it's by creating this sort of new data set, we allow our customers to do a lot in terms of evaluating how these responses occur. So upfront, the value in Event Velocity is all about that real-time response, preventative maintenance, increasing visibility of the site, but the ability to evaluate what the humans do, what the operators do as they fill out a workflow, it becomes really important. And it allows the data scientists to find new correlations and ways to optimize their processes. So what's the payback on this, right? That's what the customer's going to want to know. Well, we can increase the barrel of energy productivity. We're going to help improve operating margins. If you can take some of your best operators and reduce some of their non-productive labor time and allow them to focus on true maintenance tasks and true proactive site repairs and preparations, that's more important than driving around and checking on a facility where, even as Lee mentioned, when you really dig into that data, you find that there's a lot of high risk, low reward activities such as driving, and we can help remove some of that and to allow these highly skilled operators to focus on what's important, and that's those kind of preventative maintenance tasks or your high priority repairs. So that's going to improve margins and lower overall costs, and it will reduce downtime, ultimately leading to better uptime on the well site, which will increase revenue. So that's what a lot of our customers love to hear. We'll also improve the effectiveness of operations. Like I mentioned, cutting back on the site visits and allowing folks to focus on higher value tasks. And then the byproduct of all that is that we're taking risk out of the process. So we reduce the health, safety, and environmental risk exposure. A lot of our customers are able to visually spot leaks as soon as they begin forming. That's taking a big piece out of that HSE risk. And again, minimizing that windshield and that travel time is a really big value we're finding. So, a couple key concepts. The system, Event Velocity, uses an asset-centric hierarchy. As I mentioned, routes and sites are organized in a concept that is native to oil and gas operators, so that as you're virtualizing some of that physical activity, you're still sort of using the same language and the same concepts in order to inspect a route. Virtual tours are big, right? Virtual tours are not only done based off of an alert, such as a SCADA alert, but we can actually set virtual tours to be performed on demand, so that when an operator shows up to the remote ops center in the morning, they click a button and a virtual tour gets launched for every well pad that they want to check on that morning. And then they can take notes about what's happening and then replan a productive route for the day. We can also preset virtual tours so that they're performed in the middle of the night, and then an operator can come in the morning and play that and understand what's happened while maybe the site wasn't being actively monitored. But that's tremendous value to our customers, because they want to assess quickly, what's happened when they have that sort of that low monitoring period, sometimes happening in the middle of the night, but really could be any time. So you can preset those, have them recorded, play them back. Again, we're using smart workflows to enable that continuity of operations, but also the understanding of how responses are being performed. And what we have coming in 2018 is dynamic route optimization that will be using location services to help our customers understand where their operators are in order to dispatch the most qualified person who's in that immediate geographical area for a quick response. We use the integrated solutions framework so that we can integrate different video management systems. Data is being sent in an on-demand fashion. We use a flexible edge-based architecture. So with our partner, Dell EMC, they'll specify an edge device that will perform processing out in the field. That may be doing some different data analytics, but it will also run the event velocity software. Our software will communicate with the cameras and the systems in the field. It can send data back in a couple different ways, where it's just sending just metadata all the way up to streaming video, but the operator is going to call that video up based on an alert. So it's really good for bandwidth management, and it's a lot of these remote places where communications are a little bit limited. We got open standards, so we integrate with SCADA, OPC, UA interface. Our data can come out and be integrated into historian interfaces such as Pi or a GE historian type product. Overall, this makes for a true oil field operations platform, allowing event velocity can share data and integrate with other systems, import and store that field data, and really just provide a true platform for digital operations in the oil field. A little bit about our architecture. I kind of explained it a little bit just now. So you've got an edge-based device that's going off your remote communication system. There's a data escalation path that we use to help manage the bandwidth and utilize those pathways, right? So start out by sending metadata, everything's looking good here, or boom, there's an alert. Then you might get a still of a video shot, just a quick image. You might get a quick audio clip or a quick video clip, but the operator also has the ability then to, on demand, call up a live stream or a longer clip with more context. And this is huge because if you try to stream all this live video all the time, A, it's going to be difficult to manage back at the operations center, but B, it's just going to crush your bandwidth. You'll wind up spending so much money on your communications infrastructure that'll offset a lot of the value you're trying to get out of the system such as this. So having that on-demand architecture facilitated by the edge devices is critical to our success. Again, event velocity is designed for the digital oil field, and it's also priced to be disruptive. There's no proprietary hardware and no integration fees, and we provide discounts as our customers expand. So we want to incentivize people getting the value out of this to use it across the entire oil field. If you guys on this call today have customers that are interested, we can actually sign you up for a proof of concept to evaluate a system. We've got a partner who has a communications on wheels program where they'll bring out a trailer that's got all the cameras, servers, and everything necessary to run the software to show you how virtual site inspections and remote monitoring delivered in an on-demand fashion can really help you digitize your operations. So please get in touch with myself or Chris Lynch from Dell if you're interested in bringing this information to one of your customers and getting an evaluation going. We can get it up and running in less than 1 day, and we can help customers realize that there's a lot that can be done out there to virtualize operations in this day and age. So thank you guys for your time. I think we'll open it up now or we'll kick it back to Charlotte maybe for a Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Jesse. No, that was fantastic. And Chris, Jesse, and Lee, thank you so much for sharing insights on how organizations are implementing connected digital operations. I can tell how interesting the audience found the presentations by the number of questions flying in. Please do keep them coming. Any we don't have time for at the end, we can send that to the presenters to email out afterwards. Now, we're going to come in the last 10 minutes of our webinar to have a live polling session where the audience can interact with the presenters. When I open the poll, please can you select your answer and our panelists will comment and give their opinions on the results. Now, we're going to the first poll, which will be, where is your company on its connected digital operations journey? Now, there wasn't quite enough space in the text boxes, so if you listen now, so option A is established, connectivity is ready, we routinely collaborate in real time across locations and fully leverage data, IoT and analytics. B is in progress, updating our connectivity and collaboration models, moving to real-time operations using some data solutions, IoT and analytics. Or C, not started, we're just getting over a digital oil fielder. Now comes connected digital operations. How do we start and deliver value? Now we've got poll questions coming in. If everybody could keep on voting, that would be fantastic. We'll just give the audience another 10 seconds or so to answer. We've had probably about half the people in the webinar voting so far. So if everyone else could vote, that would be fantastic, and we'll then let our panelists comment on the results. Okay, and we've had the voting, so we have closed the poll. Now we are sharing the results. So the results are 21% established, 58% in progress, and 21% not started. Now, Chris, Jesse, Lee, does anyone have any thoughts on that? Was that kind of what you were expecting to see, or?
Yeah, this looks pretty much like what I would expect to hear back from the market. You've got, the early adopters that have gotten things going, seen these trends coming and prepared for them, gotten them done. And then a lot of folks, more than 50% of the market that's in progress of working on stuff. And then another group that probably is planning, but not yet getting started. Maybe they've been sitting back trying to find the exact right way to do it, maybe letting some of their peers, taking some lessons learned and things like that. But I think no matter where folks are at on this journey, I think most companies recognize that it's time to really implement connected digital operations so that you can bring all of these valuable data systems together in real time and for overall business evaluation.
Yeah, hey, this is Chris. I would just say that it's very heartening that 79% of the people are on their way, right? So 21%, we can help you get there, but clearly people are looking at that next level of digital oil field, connected digital operations, whatever you want to call it, where they need to be able to connect to the data, use their data in real time, implement real-time operations, and collaborate across all the different organizations. And that's exactly where we need to go. So that's actually really good statistic right there.
I would just like to add, and this may be more to the business side, is there's probably different organizations within your main unit, and everyone is probably at a different phase or maybe not on the same page. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience. And very difficult to get this off the ground at the lower levels. I found if you can get to one of your executives or one of your ops managers and work with them, then I think your trajectory would be much better and you won't be spinning your wheels as long. I do know when you're trying to grow something from the bottom up, as in our case, when we first looked at this data and kind of moved in this direction, getting everyone on board, you have hundreds of people in your organization. It was just a challenge for me, and it was not nearly as fun as I thought it was going to be. So it's adding that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue to the next poll if we still have time, Charlotte.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've just got a couple of minutes left, and so we'll go on to the next poll question now, try and get as much audience interaction as possible. So the second poll we'll just make live now. What is the biggest barrier to enabling connected digital operation in your asset? A, operations level technology, B, organizational culture, C, investment or financial resources, or D, lack of clear business case. Now we've already got some people voting in. I think we've had about 30% of the audience voted so far. So if everyone could get going with that, and then we'll have just a couple of minutes to comment on those results. Also, just to let the audience know, we've had kind of really a lot of questions flying in, and so what we can do, if we do run out of time, we can send them over to the presenters following the webinar, and then when they get back to me with the answers, I'll send them out to the entire audience, and so therefore everyone can still get their insight on those specific questions. Now, just 10 seconds or so left for the poll voting, collecting responses at the moment, and then we can have a quick chat about it. Okay, and that is the poll closed. So the results are in. So 11% said operations level technology, 25% organizational culture, 25% investment or financial resources, and 39% lack of clear business case. Now, it's a relatively even split. I don't know if that's what the panelists were expecting.
Yeah, this is Chris, and tagging on to the things that Lee was just talking about. Number one, anyone on the call, if you need some help around clear business case, I definitely have some papers and some things I can help you with there. So just get in contact with me. But a lot of these things are overcome by leadership, right? People talk about change management. I talk about change leadership. If you go to DDP, you'll see me put a photo of Muhammad Ali and talk about him as the leading change management ever. And as Lee talked about, if you don't have leadership helping push these type of projects, these type of barriers will always get in the way. I mean, there's a clear business case out there in the world. People are investing a lot of money in areas where it could be invested better, and clearly some organizational cultural opportunities. When you look at the things we're doing with Pixel, especially as it relates to workforce transformation, where you're basically saying, hey, we don't need as much people driving around all over the place. We can do things for virtual. That even adds another level of organizational change complexity. But I think the thing that Lee talked about is leadership, I believe, understands the true value potential. Now they need to just step up and make it happen. And if you recall, people, the last one with Jim Claunch, that was his major message too, that it's going to come down to leadership.
Yeah, and I would just add for the business case, and that's kind of what drove us is, we had 150 operators, and if you just do roughly 100,000 per operator per year, $15 million a year, and you're looking to double that to get to final drill out, just saying, hey, we can save $15 million a year and spend a small fraction of that to invest in this to recoup that 15 million, it's the easiest sell to management that you'll ever have, because it's clear they obviously know how much each operator costs, and they know that they can't keep extending their head count over time. So to management, it makes really good sense and it's a much easier sell. But on the ground level, if you're trying to move this through operators and the production operation supervisors, it's going to be a little bit harder of a proof of concept for them.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for those comments. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Otherwise, the webinar will get off. We've got to wrap up. Now, there are a lot of questions coming in and people requesting information about the topics discussed. We'll send those questions out as mentioned to the presenters. They can answer those. And also, I know I mentioned earlier along, Dell, EMC, Intel are the headline sponsor of the Data-Driven Drilling and Production Conference in Houston at the end of May. And so if you wanted to hear any more from them, I'm sure they would be happy to speak to you there and share a bit more knowledge. So thank you so much to Chris, Lee, and Jesse for participating today. I'm sure you've all found that insight very valuable, and we've had great response in terms of the questions and the activity. I'll send all the audio recordings and presentations over the next week, so please do share them as much as possible. We want to spread knowledge through the community. Now, thank you so much for tuning in, and goodbye. Thanks all.
Charlotte, great job.